All right, so I am Mr. Most Days Off, and thank you for joining me today for Mr. Most Days Off Love. This is a show where, unlike my other podcasts where I just talk about The Simpsons every week, I get to branch out and talk about all the other really cool things that I enjoy. And today I've got a few awesome friends to help me discuss our mutual love of filmmaker, podcaster, and just general artist, Kevin Smith. So before we dive into Kevin today, let me introduce our guest. Starting on my right, I've got podcaster Toby Von Doom, or Toby Schofield. He runs the website Bad Secret Media, which features podcasts that covers both video games, conspiracy theories, and randomness. I also have with me today Jamie Zeski, who is an improv comedian and actress. She's actually taking time out of her day on a day that she's got a performance tonight just so she can talk about Kevin Smith. And I see just in time, hello, Christina, welcome. You're just in time for your introduction, so that was perfect. I've got today as well Christina Romero, who is a Twitch streamer as well as a comedian, and she recently got the opportunity to interview Kevin Smith herself. So actually, I want to start right there, Christina. Since you just jumped in, we're going to put you on the spot right away.
Awesome.
How in the world did you get an opportunity to talk to the man himself recently?
So I will try to not make this too terribly long, but it does have a tiny bit of setup. It started when I started doing Twitch. I noticed that J Muse, Jason,
he's on your shirt right now.
Thank you. I mean, come on, I have to. So Jason Muse is on Twitch as his name's J Muse on Twitch. Amazing. I started watching, couldn't get enough. I started giving way too much money, buying gift subs and giving cheering bits and all this other kind of Twitch lingo that I hope most of you guys understand. So he started getting to know my name because my name on Twitch is Christy Got Jokes, which is a great name that people remember. And one day Kevin Smith's on the show. And I didn't realize this. And I'm like, what? I'm watching Kevin and Jay and I can chat and they might see me. And Kevin immediately picks up my first comment, which is, Kevin, I love you. Hearing you talk in person is the reason why I pursue my dreams of comedy. And he reads this out on the stream and he's like, go you, Christy Got Jokes. You do your dreams and you follow and the world needs comedy. And it was the coolest moment. I was like, holy crap, I just had an interaction with Kevin. I didn't get to talk to him, but he talked to me. He was talking about That Kevin Smith Club. Are you guys familiar with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's okay. Toby actually just told me about that. We'll definitely talk more about that, but please go on.
Nice. So he was talking about that Kevin Smith fan club, whatever. And so I immediately went and subscribed to that because, of course. And I noticed one day I wake up in the morning on a Saturday and I get this thing on Discord because they have a Discord channel. I get this thing pop up that says, all right, we're going live in 30 minutes to talk with Kevin and you might get a chance to talk to him. So I jump on there. I get ready as fast as I can because I just woken up and I jump on the thing and I never get picked for anything ever in my entire life. And boom, I'm picked in the little group of people that are going to get to talk to Kevin. And I'm just completely blown away and freaked out. And I can't, everything's happening way too fast for me. I have no makeup on. Don't give a crap. I'm like, whatever. I'm finally going to get to meet Kevin. Because this has been a journey for 10 years of trying to meet Kevin from the first time I ever saw him talk in LA. And so I'm freaking out. I'm sitting there. The producer comes on in my headphones and he's like, all right, I don't know if they're going to if Kevin's people are going to pull him right at 12:40. But if they don't, then you get to talk to him. And I'm sitting here of course. I'm please don't. Yeah, don't sell out. I'm the next person in line. You know what I mean? It's that thing. So I'm crossing my fingers. The producer never comes back in my ear. The next thing I know, I'm just put on the screen with Kevin and I'm not prepared. And I'm just and he's staring at me for a good 3 seconds. And I'm I'm oh my God.
That's so cool. And it turns out you're actually a celebrity now because Todd, the 206 geek in the chat, says that he actually joined that the Kevin Smith Club last week, and he saw you on that stream.
That's awesome.
Very cool. That's the magic of the internet, man. That's so cool.
It's amazing. And just a fun fact, Jay Muse remembered me. I was remembered yesterday on his stream, and I was very excited about that.
Aww.
So yeah.
That's incredible. So actually seeing your post, I've been doing this show for about a month now, and I'm always just trying to think of like, what's something I love that I want to talk about? And as soon as I saw your post with you talking Kevin, like, that's what I want to talk about. I know lots of people that love Kevin Smith. And another person here today, Jamie, you also, you and I have had a couple conversations where we've just referenced Kevin Smith, and actually something that I've been dying to ask you, because I'm usually really bad about like blowing interview questions before I'm actually like on a show or whatever. But when I asked you if you wanted to do this, you said there was one Kevin Smith film that you needed to watch that you hadn't seen yet before you joined us here today. What movie, which one was it that you hadn't seen?
The one I had not seen until this last week was Yoga Hosers.
Okay. What was your opinion of Yoga Hosers?
I liked it at first. I didn't really like the like villain or the plot, but I liked like the flavor of the movie and like the performances, and I was vibing with it. And then once it got into like the part that was supposed to be the coolest, I was kind of like, meh. So it's not my fave, but it was all right.
I'll be honest, as much as I love Kevin Smith and have mad respect for all his work, that is my least favorite Kevin Smith project so far. But
I think it's mine as well.
You know, I think what I actually personally always enjoy and definitely want to talk more about is like the evening with Kevin Smith's, or like what Christina was talking about, like his Q&A sessions where honestly, he'll usually get asked like 3 questions and talk for 7 hours. I love that. But he actually addressed somebody in the audience who essentially shared our point of view on Yoga Hosers. And it was, for this person, it was like a 40-year-old male. And it just, I'm a 34-year-old male. So at least for my sake, I know that I just wasn't the target audience of that film. He specifically made that film with his teenage daughter in mind, thinking he wanted to make a film for teenage girls. And that, to his credit, is a demographic that I think is largely underrepresented in his earlier works. So I think that's totally and completely fair. I'd still say glad I saw it, though. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, and I really do like Harley Quinn Smith as an actor. I think it's like not just nepotism. I think she's pretty charming.
I would concur with that as well. She was actually at the last time I got to see Kevin Smith speak live. She came out on stage with him and like kind of did a Q&A to kind of start the night before Jason and Kevin did a showing of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back 2 or whatever the sequel is called. I'm blanking.
My shirts.
Yeah.
There you go. And last but not least today, Toby Von Doom, Toby Schofield. You and I know, have talked for hours about how, for me personally, and for you as well, I believe, Kevin Smith is our reason that we started podcasting at this point. What, you started 4.5, 5 years ago, and I believe I started 4 years ago?
Yeah, almost 6 years ago for me at this point. Well, I mean,
as well as Todd, for what it's worth.
He actually had a bigger effect even further before that, because I used to make skits and stuff, and like that's one of my big dreams in life, was to direct a movie of some sort. And I think Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was my first introduction to Kevin Smith. And I remember my dad's friend owned a video rental store. And I watched that movie, and I was like, I want to watch the first Jay and Silent Bob because it's called Strikes Back. I didn't realize that there wasn't a movie.
Hard to find
that
one, yeah.
But so I found out that those characters show up in Clerks and stuff. So I went back and started watching everything. I think at the time the 10-year DVD or 15-year, whatever year copy of Clerks came out, and it had all these documentaries and stuff about the making of. It had the short film, The Flying Car. I love that little skit too. So like, just listening to him talk about making a movie with no budget, like I just thought it was awesome. And so I started out wanting to make movies and skits and stuff like that. It's a lot harder to find actors than you would think, and it's a lot harder to write. I'm not a very good writer. So slowly, you know, he started doing podcasts and I started listening, and I tried to look for the quote. I had it. I made a little meme kind of thing of Kevin Smith saying some kind of quote about podcasting, and I loved it. I can't find it though. But basically he was just like, it's a good excuse to hang out with your friends and just talk and capture, you know, your memories or whatever. I was like, yeah, I'm going to start a podcast. And, you know, 5-6 years later, I've got 2 podcasts, and I used to film a bunch of skits that are on YouTube and stuff. So yeah, he's had a huge impact on my life, and kind of continues to, I guess, these days.
I feel that as well, yeah. And like you kind of touched on a little bit, but for me as well, it gave me an excuse to have a conversation with my best friend every week, because my co-host on Best Star Diddley, my Simpsons podcast, is my college roommate and best friend. And I mean, you know, it's hard sometimes, like as adults, you don't necessarily always have like a reason to get together, or, you know, like just sometimes people drift apart or whatever. And this is like a guaranteed like weekly meetup where it's like something that, you know, we know we're both going to love talking about. And I think that's what Kevin essentially described his podcast as getting, or even his filmmaking. I mean, like going back to his early works, he's just like, I've got all these friends that I hang out with. And like, when I watch movies, I don't see anybody that looks like them on TV or on screen. So I'll make a movie about us. And like, so he did. And I just think there's something really inspiring about that mentality, about just, okay, it doesn't exist, so I'll make it. I do want to comment on you, sir, because I always feel like I want to do this with you, but you're so down on yourself. You are a great writer. Every writer feels like they suck at writing. We all go through that. So I've seen some of you have a YouTube channel, and I'm going to shout out, you've got some really fun short films that you've actually made on there, and they're fantastic. Yeah. I think they're really great works, and you should keep pursuing that.
Thank you.
I do want to address Todd over in the comments for a second. First of all, sir, it is not better than Tusk. Tusk is a fantastic film that we're definitely going to talk more about, but that's fine if you don't dig it. I understand it's not for everyone. Todd says that he also got inspired to start recording podcasts. It looks like Babylon, the podcast that he did, was his inspiration for that. So I think it's really neat that just so many people are influenced by him. So I'm going to backtrack again, go back to Jamie, since you and I already talked a little bit about how much we didn't really necessarily love Yoga Hosers. What Kevin Smith project do you absolutely love? Like, what is on the Kevin Smith pedestal for you? Uh-oh, I lost Jamie. Jamie's going away. Christina, same question.
You shouldn't have asked them.
I'm sorry, whatever I said to offend you. No. Uh-oh. Toby, can you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can't hear you.
It's my fault.
There you go. Okay.
Sorry.
I thought there was more problems.
I went to type on, and I knew I was going to do that. I went to type because I was like, oh, I haven't shared this on Facebook that I'm live yet. I want to get more people. And then I muted my mic. Sorry, guys. And then I forgot. It happens all the time on my Twitch stream. So we have like a command to remind me. Is Jamie back? Do we want to let Jamie answer first?
Jamie is getting in, but I'll go ahead and let you talk. And
okay, cool.
We'll definitely get back to Jamie's answer whenever she makes it.
This is such a tough question for me because I have so many different, like I could tell you a reason why I love every, like, well, not every, but so many of the films that he does. One that really just has a soft spot in my heart, and I think will always be my favorite one, is the first one that I was ever introduced to, which was Mallrats. I love Mallrats. I can watch it a million times over, and like just seeing all of these actors that aren't big yet, you know, you have Jason Lee, you have Ben Affleck, you have so many people, like I can't even name them all. It's just such a great film, and I can go back and watch it, and it's like, it's still the most amazing thing that I've seen. When I saw it when I was 16, and I was like, oh my God, who are these Jay and Silent Bob characters? And what is this Mallrats? I loved it. So that's my favorite.
100% with you. I was, I think just a little bit younger than you when I saw that for the first time, as I'm a little older than you now. So that makes sense. But I identified so much like with that mall culture. of the 90s, because like at that time that's what we did. I mean, there were days on the weekends where our parents would just drop us off at the mall, and then you're just kind of there all day. And you really are. You're just a mall rat.
Yes.
And, like, obviously, he kind of took that that concept and just built on it so much. And then, of course, I don't know at what point you realize as a Kevin Smith fan that people in Kevin Smith movies do not converse like normal humans. Like, they like monologue everything. But it's still like that movie was just so quotable. I don't know if any of you were on AOL Instant Messenger back in the day, old enough to have been there. But my away messages were exclusively Mallrats quotes. Like I was always like, I wasn't there and just be like, I just type out a Mallrats quote.
Like, do it, Doug. Like,
they did it in a very uncomfortable place, like the back of a Volkswagen. So, Jamie, I'm glad you're back. Right before you got disconnected there for a moment, I was just going to say, we talked about yoga hosers being our least favorite end of the spectrum. What is your favorite Kevin Smith project?
Before I answer that, I want to say that I did cut out, and then the first thing I heard was Christina being like, well, it has all these great people, Jason Lee and Ben Affleck. I was like, but which one is she talking about? That could be like most of them. And then he finally said Mallrats. I was like, oh, okay. So I think my answer used to be Chasing Amy, because that was like a really big movie for me development-wise. But I have some problems with it now. So I think Dogma is his masterpiece in terms of like, because I think it's fun the whole time, but it's like action packed, but it's like has a lot on its mind. I think it's his most thoughtful movie, and there's a lot to like really explore in it. And that's why I like it. I just think it's kind of delightful and it reflects my beliefs about the world a lot.
Well, and Alanis Morissette is God is just so fucking perfect. Like that is like the best.
Yeah. So she's so great in that.
She really is. She's wonderful. I actually just recently heard that Dogma 2 is in the works, which is super exciting because I also love Dogma, but
I did not hear
that Moose Jaws has been in the works now for what feels like an absolute decade. So I don't know.
He has been begging, or not begging, but he has been hinting. He's like, if anyone like has any money that they want to give me to help production on Moose Jaws, like he's always
asking. Yeah. No, I think Dogma for a long time was my favorite as well, especially when I was in a more snarkier phase of my atheism. Like it was just like, yeah, take that, Christians. I'm a little cooler on that now, but it felt really good at the time to have that movie. So.
Well, and I also think the movie is respectful of believers
too.
Like,
Kevin Smith is a believer. He is a Christian. Yeah. He wrote that movie from a Christian perspective, but he's also able to like remove himself enough to say like, okay, yeah, I like the big guy in the sky, but like also there's some silly parts of this book he apparently wrote or whatever. Yeah. I know that's not quite how it works. Please, historian. Goobs is in the chat. Thanks for joining, Goobs. He's exclusively here to declare how much better Canada is over America, which we can no longer argue. Actually, it's unfortunate, but we used to be able to be like rivalry, and now it's just like, can we please come up and visit? But so since he's here, and it kind of came up organically, or I forced it into conversation, I want to talk about Moose Jaws. Toby, I know you're excited about this one because you and I talked about it last time we hung out. First of all, you actually listen more commonly, I think, to his current podcast. So, and Christina just mentioned it. Do we have any updates on when Moose Jaws is coming?
I honestly, I'm a terrible Kevin Smith fan. I haven't listened to his shows in a long time because when you listen to 6 of his shows that are constantly, you start to notice you're hearing the same stories over and over. You get new details and stuff, but I love Kevin Smith, but it was like, Kev, I've heard these stories 15 times now. So I've taken an extended break so I can go back and listen when he's got new stories and, he's not talking about, jerking off 10 times a day or something. So I love listening to his stories. That they capture you. He's a great storyteller. So sadly, I won't know if there's any hints about any new shows or new movies, because he used to drop them all the time. Like he'd be like, oh, working on this, and then you'd listen to another show and he'd be like, oh, he would accidentally give you little nuggets. So you actually had to listen to all his shows to kind of get like what he was doing, you know? So yeah, no,
I don't think he's
I'm
actually
kind of
capable of keeping secrets. Like when he wants to, like he always accidentally leaks stuff. And one of my favorite stories I heard not too long ago is when they were making the newest Star Wars trilogy. He actually got invited by J.J. Abrams to come and visit the set of the Millennium Falcon, excuse me. I just lost my nerd card. But anyway, he got to visit the Millennium Falcon, and he, obviously huge Star Wars fan, nerding out, completely just going crazy. And he had like signed like all these like NDA things, like he wasn't supposed to like share details or whatever. But like, sure enough, he was like talking, like just tweeting about it. And like literally he had like gotten like a call from JJ, like, dude, like you said you wouldn't talk about this. Like you can't talk about it. It's like, I just thought I wasn't supposed to like share pictures or details. I thought I was allowed to say I went. Like, what's the point of getting to go if you don't get to tell anybody?
If you don't get to brag.
Right? And I think a lot of that is true to who he is as a person, because he just gets excited about things. Like I get excited, like y'all are excited to talk about Kevin today. I think it's really cool whenever you get to see his excitement like pour out into his projects. And like his Great White North trilogy, which is the Moose Jaws, is going to be the finality of that. But I really love Tusk. I have to disagree with Todd on that one. Again, we talked about Yoga Hosers. It was still entertaining, just a little bit too I wasn't the target for that one. But Tusk, dude, like what? Like just a complete shift. I saw Tusk in theaters, and I remember I was in a theater alone with one other woman. It was an older lady, and at the end of the movie, she was like complaining, like wanting her money back, and I'm sitting there like, that was incredible. I can't wait to watch that again. What were y'all's thoughts on Tusk?
I also really like Tusk. I think it's really crazy because it really scares me. Like, I know that the likelihood of that happening to me is so little, but it was just like viscerally terrifying to watch, like, and imagine that happening to me. So it's like one of the last movies that gave me nightmares. I think it's really good. I also really like Red State.
It's really good. Which one did you say?
I also really like Red State.
Oh my God, I love Red State.
That was also really scary.
I would actually say I like Red State more than Tusk overall, and Red State was another one that just shocked me at how much I enjoyed it, because it was so different from his other projects, but you could still see the humor from Kevin. You could see Kevin Smith style humor in Red State, I felt like. But Tusk, similar to Jamie, it was one of those, like, as I'm watching it, it's just like, okay, clearly like the odds of this are like, you're more likely to win the lottery, but like, what if you did win the reverse lottery and some dude? Like, it's a terrifying thought. I just remember the creativity of that, though. Like, I mean, I guess you could consider that brave to put that on film, but like, I thought it was a well-made, well-acted movie. I thought Justin Long was incredible in it, and admittedly, there was an aspect to that one. Maybe Toby and Christina will back me up on this one, but as podcasters or Twitch streamers, same. We put content on the internet all the time in this style. The main character was a podcaster, so I'm like, I could see myself going out into the woods for some weird interview because I thought it'd be good for the show.
Right.
Hey, I know I would, like, because I've got my goofy weird conspiracy show, so that's something that would have been right up my alley. Like, I've got to talk to this guy. Now, did you ever listen to the episodes? I can't remember which one of his millions of shows he did this on, where they actually like wrote the premise for it. Like they were reading the real
Tusk yes or Tusk no, I believe is what it was, to like vote.
Yes. And just listening to them talk about it, like you can see how much fun he's having writing this crazy idea. And it's out there, but it's awesome. It's awesome that movie also starts with a podcast. Like, it starts out as just an idea on a podcast, and then gets made, and then he included a podcaster and stuff. I think that's really cool. I agree with you on the Red State. I thought Red State was awesome, and I felt like Red State had a lot of twists, and it really shows how good Kevin Smith is, though, as a writer, as a director, and everything. Because it still has its comedic parts, but I mean, it's a thriller. I mean, for the most part, and then then he's got this basically a horror movie. Like he's really talented. He always talks about how like, oh, I'd never want to get the properties to like a Marvel movie or anything. I think he would kill something like that. Like, I know he doesn't feel like he's got the confidence to do it, like how he always is like, oh, I couldn't do it. But, he's done some, what did he do? Supergirl, and he's done some Flash episodes.
I was just reading about a comic series he did yesterday, and it's like being looked at now, and just like they're talking about how like he makes such different choices than a traditional comic book, story might make, and it makes it really compelling to read. It's because comic books, I love comic books, but we've all seen the same Spider-Man and Superman stories over and over. We know the origin stories to death. I mean, like they've all been done. So to have somebody that is able to kind of do something almost like with a twist and make it not just a twist for the sake of a twist, but like something that actually really drives the story is really fun to watch or read.
Speaking about his comic books and his writings, if you ever get a chance, his Green Hornet run that he did.
Yeah.
I'm not a Green Hornet fan at all. It is amazing. It is like the part, because I think after like issue 20 he was off the book, and he's written so much. He's written a bunch of comics at this point now. But that run was awesome, and then the movie was coming out with Seth Rogen, and I was like, dude, they're gonna make this Green Hornet movie. This is gonna be awesome. And then it was the pile of crap that it was. Yeah. If it would have been that comic book arc he did, it'd have been awesome. They could have made 5 more movies, and we would have eaten it up.
Way into it, like the Avengers now. Yeah.
Yes. It's so good. I highly recommend that. If you're not, cool. If you're not a big Green Hornet fan, this will make you a fan, and then you'll watch that movie and be like, y'all fucked up. That's it. I messed up.
How did you make this out of that?
Yeah, you had this whole story laid out already in comic book form. Yeah. Anyways,
so that kind of touched. I mentioned earlier, like my favorite Kevin Smith entertainment wise is actually his Evening With series. Like I've like the first Evening With Kevin Smith, I've actually bought 3 times because I've worn them out, just like playing them over and over and over. And like anytime I do like the Desert Island game, where it's like if you could take 3, DVDs because I'm old, you could take 3 DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever on a magic desert island where you somehow had a way to play them. Like mine would always be the Kevin Smith Evening With series. And on the very first one, he actually talks about how he was attached at one point. He actually wrote a draft of the Superman script that was supposed to come out starring Nicolas Cage as Superman, which recently they actually had like screen pictures come up where they were like taking test shots with Nicolas Cage in the Superman suit. But like it was the most ridiculous parameters, because like they were like, we want you to make this movie, but I don't want to see Superman do any of that boring shit like fly around or anything. So Superman can't fly. And they like basically restricted him from being able to use like most of his powers. And they're like, and he has to fight a giant spider in the 3rd act. The funniest thing about that all to me is Kevin Smith eventually was like, no, but eventually that script became Wild Wild West with
I was just thinking that.
They like it somehow like transformed that Superman story into like a robotic cowboy story with Will Smith.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. That's the natural progression. Superman, cowboy.
Kevin Smith to Will Smith.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there it is.
Alphabetical order. Perfect. So I heard Christina mention it earlier. That she has seen Kevin Smith speak live. I've gotten to see him speak a couple times. Toby or Jamie, have either of you had the opportunity to see Kevin speak? No, on Jamie?
It's magical.
No.
I got to see him one time, and it was magical. Dude, it's so, if you ever get a chance to watch this man speak live, He will inspire you. He will make you laugh. He will make you cry. He's
amazing.
Yeah, it's
Where
an
did you
experience.
genuine,
It's a
Where did you get to see him speak at, Debbie?
Actually, it was in Denton. He so
Lee's
Jason
restaurant.
Lee, yeah, he owns a restaurant and he's part of the arts community or something here in Denton. Well, not here in Denton. I'm not in Denton, but in Denton. And he asked Kevin Smith to come down and I don't really remember what exactly it was, but this is when. So you know how which airlines did he have the
Southwest
issue with
Airlines.
for the 2 seats?
Famously feuded with
So-
them for a bit.
Yes, and then he famously made up with them because of his trip to Denton. So we were there the night that he made up with them because they made everything right because something happened with his flights. He was late, and dude, he was like 3 hours late, and we stood in line and waited. And we were at the front. We were at the very front. There was no like assigned seating. It was just get there and get what you can get. And so we wanted to be in the front row. And when they opened those fucking doors, everyone took off running. And I was like, oh God, oh
Like
God.
Black Friday shopping, people are just getting like trampled.
Yes, it was worse. But we did. The first 2 rows were reserved. So we got to be right in the third row. I mean, dude, I could almost smell his breath. I felt like it was awesome.
What did it smell like?
So good.
How do you feel about that?
Lots of weed. It smelled like weed.
Yep.
That's awesome. I was in the second row, and y'all, I went to see him the first time I saw him was in 2011 for the Red State movie
wow.
tour.
Oh, cool.
And I was in LA, and I think this was before he was doing like a big tour, but I was living in LA at the time, and it was my 1-year anniversary, and we went to see Red State, and then he talked afterwards, and he was outside of the theater just meeting people. That's like how long ago it was, and how the hype wasn't as like, I mean, it was still decently big, but I remember having to run. Yeah. he was literally out there with no bodyguards, just his assistant, just talking to people. It was nuts. Yeah. And I was right there, and then he had to go back inside. I was that close 10 years ago.
Was that the only time you saw him, or did you get to see him another time as well?
I saw him another time when he was here. I had tickets for this, but I ended up I was performing in a musical, Young Frankenstein at the time, and I ended up having a show, and I had already bought tickets, so I didn't get to go. But I at least got the shirt. But I did go when he came here just to talk. God, I can't remember when that was, like 2014 or 2015, something like that. He came to Dallas, whatever theater, Texas Theater.
Texas Theater, that's where I've seen him. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were probably both there actually, because I've seen him twice at the Texas Theater. I once was, I think, when the shit like 2014, 15-ish. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think it was him and Jay? Was it Jay and Silent Bob Talk Back?
It was their podcast. They did 2 showings, and I actually only got to go to the early show. So the first one it was both Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes on stage, and it was just like kind of a Q&A session. And then at the time, I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but they were doing a podcast called Jay and Silent Bob Are Getting Old or
yes,
something.
that's what it's called. That's what it's called.
Get Old.
Yes.
That show's great too. Jason Mewes' stories are awesome too.
Best.
It turns out that if you do a bunch of drugs and you survive to get old, like you have like, if you can put those 2 traits together, you've got a hell of a touring career available in later years. But yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I think that show is to publicly shame Jason because Kevin's like, so you use toilet water for your heroin? And Jay's like, yeah, I did. And they make jokes about it. It's a great show to learn from. Especially from if I've never had an addiction, so like to hear these stories, and yeah, they're making light of them, but it's like, wow, how the hell did you survive? And how are you here?
If you hear about how Jay grew up, because Kevin talks about that too. Like Jay grew up with a really bad situation where he was like locked in a closet by his parents to the point where he was supposed to play the little hot dog guy or whatever that was in Yoga Hosers, but he couldn't put the mask
the
on.
Wiener Nazi or the Nazi people. I don't remember what it was.
he couldn't put the mask on because of that. And they talked about that too. And you're just like, wow, Jay's life is nuts to Jason's life, nuts.
The Bratzy.
Yeah, it's really neat that those two like kind of got into each other's lives at such a young age, and that like Kevin with that creative mind saw Jason and was just like, I don't even need to change this person. I just need to write down what he's doing and put it on camera. And like I think one of the first stories he talks about, like when they met in an arcade at like the grocery store that became the inspiration for the Clerks quick stop. And like Jason walks in and he just like starts to pretend to like fillet this arcade stick. And like Kevin's like, I don't even think anybody knew that he was like, I don't think he was aware if anybody was watching or not. He just thought it was funny. He's just like going at it. And Kevin's just sitting there like fascinated at this like random teenage kid who's like blowing this joystick arcade. But Jamie, Texas Theater is where he comes periodically, and next time I go see him there, I'll definitely shoot you an invite because it's very cool to see him in person. And he really is, like we joked about it earlier, but I mean, it's ridiculous how long he will like. You'll ask him like, so what's your favorite color, and somehow that will turn into a like 2-hour answer about how colors inspired his early career or whatever.
And follow your dreams. Like that's always what it ends up going to.
Follow your dreams every single time.
Yeah. You'll leave any Kevin Smith like live setting thinking that you'll be able to do anything. Like for the next 2 weeks, you're like, I can become a weightlifter. I can become a film actor. And then like after that 2-week high, you're like, oh, I'm just me. I'm not Kevin Smith.
If they took the song "I Believe I Can Fly" and made a human being out of it, like that's. Todd pointed out the enemies and yoga hosers were the Bratzis. I don't know how I didn't get there on my own.
Yes.
And Goose has seen him 3 times now, both at Babylon and Toronto, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, and on the Reboot Tour, which the Reboot Tour is really cool at the Texas Theater because he actually came out and he did like a small Q&A session, and more so he just kind of talked about like the filmmaking process and didn't really answer a lot of questions yet. But then he actually sat down in the theater, like he took a seat in the audience that had been reserved for him, but like it was amongst like everybody. And we all watched the movie together. And then at the end of the movie, he came up back on stage and just answered questions for what felt like ever, in a good way. Like it was just like when it was all over, I'm just sitting in the seat like, nope, we're just going to sit here and listen to Kevin for the rest of the time. Really good stuff. And yeah, so inspiring, which is, I think, the big takeaway for all of us and or at least for me on the podcast. I guess I shouldn't directly speak for you guys, but anyway, let's get back into some of our favorite moments, going back and thinking about like Kevin Smith projects and things of that nature, going all the way back to Clerks. I guess this is still on the inspirational side of things, because one of the things I love so much about Clerks, and what he says this all the time, the technology that he made Clerks on is less than what we all carry in our phones or in our pockets every single day. And it just comes down to me, whenever you see people that they're just that like make it happen attitude, I think it's so incredible. And it's almost frustrating now when you hear somebody say like, well, I can't do that because I don't have the right tools. And it's just like, you have a phone in your pocket. You can do this. I know.
Yeah, I have an iPhone and you can edit video on an iPhone. I mean, it's technology's crazy. Like I said, I've been a wannabe filmmaker since I was probably 15 or so now, and I'm 32, so 17 years. And I've had editing softwares. They're cheap. They're not expensive. I know a lot of people are making full movies off of their phone, and which is incredible. I mean, you can get started on anything now. Like I said, from just having a phone and the editing software that's already on the phone, you don't have to buy anything extra. You can start making little projects, and it's mind-blowing. And it's mind-blowing, but that's why there's so many YouTube channels and so many, it's more available to everyone now. Like it wasn't when Kevin Smith started making movies. Like he had to rent out real equipment and, couldn't just use a home camcorder at the time. It wouldn't have been the same quality at all. So yeah, anyone can do it now.
Oh, go ahead, Christina, please.
Sorry, that's what that's the one thing that I always take away when he says, just put your story out there. Anyone can do it. I was a fat guy, this fat guy nobody, and then I just got my hands on a camera and I did it and I put it out there, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm putting my hands and feet in front of the Grauman Chinese Theater, which he never thought would have happened. Like, it's because he just took that leap. And yeah, anyone could do it. In March, this was in March. It feels like the other day, but in March, I woke up one day. I had an idea for a story, grabbed my camera, filmed it, put it together editing, and I felt so good about myself because I had an idea for a little story and I did it all by myself in this crazy quarantine, and I put it out on YouTube, and that's what he's talking about, and anyone can do it, and it's great. I love it. Sorry.
I'm glad you brought up the quarantine aspect of that, actually, because I think there's kind of a general sense of, I don't know, maybe depression or just like an extra barrier that a lot of creative people are feeling like they're having to overcome right now, and we very much are. We're living through completely unprecedented times in all aspects of life, but including entertainment. And I think that, honestly, now I even feel like I need to go back and watch An Evening with Kevin Smith or one of the various times where he just tells you to go out and create, because it's like we still have all of these available options. You have Zoom, you have Get Vocal, you have all of these great platforms that will allow you to put content out. Twitch, as Christina's been very successful with, playing games and whatnot. You've been playing Fall Guys, which I also want to talk about. We'll talk about that.
So obsessed.
So good. So good. Yeah.
So
I was telling Toby about that before we got on. Jamie, I kind of want to know, I know from the podcasting side of things, we're clearly all over Kevin Smith's nuts right now. As a performer of the stage, do you also feel inspiration from Kevin, or like what would you say the influence is? Is it more of like how it affects your comedy or how it affects you as a performer?
Well, yeah, I think his enthusiasm and DIY spirit are very infectious and inspiring to any creative person. But I also write and direct stuff, so I definitely have always been inspired by him by that. But as far as an acting perspective, I think kind of what you were saying about Jason Mewes about like kind of just being oneself and finding a way to make that entertaining to people is something that his work inspires me to do. And that's a reason I think why Clerks was so successful, is that it was just a conversation-based movie. It was really like a personality-driven movie and a perspective-driven movie. So I definitely try to always have a point of view and be honest when I act, because I think that's what people relate to.
That's right. There's an element of vulnerability with that too that I think is another thing that Kevin Smith is such a great example of, because as much as we love Kevin Smith, he has a whole long line of people who are happy to talk about how much shit he is, or just basically talk shit about him. And I think it's really, again, I keep saying inspiring. I'm probably overusing that word today, but whatever, it's how I feel. It's inspiring to see how well he deals with that hatred. Like, I mean, like he has some really shitty things said about him on the internet. And I mean, he's literally like a pop culture joke on several other shows. Like the show Entourage referenced him twice, and both of them were very negative, basically implying like the main character on that is an actor, and he's like super heartbreaking, like offended that they offered him a Kevin Smith movie, basically.
That made me so mad.
But on one hand, it made me laugh because, I mean, it is a funny dig, but yes, also like, man, he's the best. But then when I heard Kevin's response to it, I'm like, see, that's the attitude that like I need to try to like make sure to keep, because his reaction to that happening was, oh my God, they said my name on Entourage. Like there's something kind of cool about that, because as performers and creative, if you're making films, podcasts, Twitch channels, anytime you're putting yourself out there for the public, you are opening yourself up for criticism, and a lot of people are very quick to be critics. Toby, I don't know why you're agreeing. Your YouTube, I'm sorry, your podcast reviews are all 5 stars.
Hey, I will say, because of how positive he is about, he says it in many of his shows and stuff, like, you're not going to please everyone. I probably would be one of those people that would always fire back and be like, oh yeah, well, you do a podcast. If I wouldn't have had Kevin Smith in my, I guess in my life, but like, just how positive he is.
What
I know that felt
anniversary
really corny and lame, but
I'm just kidding.
what's yeah. But like, just how he takes it in stride of like, you can't please everyone, and the people that do enjoy your work, those are the people that you need to keep close. Like, those are the ones that you should appreciate. You shouldn't worry about everyone that hates your stuff, but you should appreciate the ones that do give you their time. And that's always the message I've gotten from Kevin. And I've always thought, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Not everyone's going to see your jokes as the best or whatever, your content. And but the ones that are there,
yeah,
awesome. Love those people. Everyone else, that's fine. I don't hate you. I don't hate anyone for not liking something I do. Like, it's
I
people
can
just don't
encourage
like
you to
stuff.
be slightly less vocal about it. Sometimes that hurts, man. No, I'm just saying, like with negative reviews.
Yeah. No, it still hurts. Don't get me wrong. I've had people tell me that is English his first language on some of our reviews. So
I think my favorite 1-star review I had for Best Darn Diddly, it starts out by, like, when you read it, I was like, is this like a 1-star by mistake? Because they're like, this is one of the most best and thorough Simpsons reviews I've ever listened to. And then it goes on to, but I hate the main guy on the show and his stupid jokes. And like, basically, like, he talks about how great the show is, but then just personally attacks me. Like paragraphs. And I'm just like, cool.
Those are the worst when you get singled out in the review. Like, if the whole show together is like, oh, they all suck, you're like, okay, they share the hate with me. But it's when it's attacked at you that you're like, ow, what did I do to hurt
Richie loves
you?
that review because he just gets off scot-free.
Yeah, I bet he does. I bet he does. He's like, you're the one ruining the show, not me.
Like, admittedly, I'll be honest, the first time I read that review, I was just kind of like, I'm not strong enough for this. But then, like, like watching other people like Kevin that I respect and how you put yourself into this market, you got to be able to roll with those punches.
So true.
Goobs doesn't know anything about the hate reviews either. Apparently, all that's targeted at Toby. Goobs is Toby's co-host on the Secret Levels podcast, by the way. We should shout out. Which Christina, Jamie, I'm not sure if you and I share the love of video games or not, but Christina clearly does. And Toby has a wonderful podcast about video games in general, usually of the retro variety. You can see his Rampage poster in the background.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Wherever it is. Yeah. Oh, hold on. I wanted to show you. It happened to be sitting here, but I was like, oh, I got to leave it here. I got the Mallrats.
Yes.
The Mall Brawler. And it's the actual NES copy.
Yes.
Like they did a limited run. So this is an actual Nintendo cartridge. I haven't played it yet, but I will. So I thought that was cool. I just got it in the mail. Just like
wait, it's a Mallrats
So.
video game, or it's something else? Mall Brawl?
It's called Mall Brawler.
Literally,
It's James.
it is
Mallrats.
And
it's amazing.
It's a beat 'em up.
Cool.
It's on Switch. You can get it on Nintendo Online.
So yeah,
right? Something like that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's on all the. I think it's on the PlayStation Store and stuff too. That's another funny thing that I feel like Kevin Smith stuff is interwoven into like everything I like, because like Jason Lee was a skateboarder. I was a little skater punk, so like seeing him in the movies and stuff is like, fucking Jason Lee, that's cool. And then he makes his way into video games, and he's hell, even in one of the Scream movies, Jay and Silent Bob show up. Well, it's crazy that where he pops up in just these random things like this, like, or how he's like connected to everything, it seems like. And then even Miles and I share a love for wrestling, and he's worked with Chris Jericho, one of the greatest, and like it's It's awesome. It's awesome how open he is to doing new stuff and working with people that are out of the realm that he should work with. New people, giving new actors new shots, like Ben Affleck and stuff. So he takes a lot of chances on people, and I love
Degrassi, and they did it.
Yes, that's what I was trying to talk about.
Silent Bob.
That's what I was.
Yes.
I know Degrassi through references from Kevin Smith and Degrassi, so you two are going to have to carry this part of the show.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think Jamie got so excited he froze.
Yeah, I think it's either that or he's frozen with excitement.
Basically, I'm obsessed with Degrassi, and him and Jay and Silent Bob were filming a movie at Degrassi High School, and they used the students in the movie, and then like Kevin, being such a huge Degrassi fan, he was like hanging out with all the original characters from Degrassi, like the 80s series. Are you guys familiar with Degrassi at all?
I know of it because I've looked it up through basically Kevin Smith. I know it's like a Canadian,
it's a Canadian show, and it was in the 80s. It was like, and then they rebooted it and they did Degrassi: The Next Generation, which I was working at Blockbuster at the time. I got to watch the first season for free, and I was hooked. Blockbuster. But yeah, I was hooked, and I freaking all of a sudden Jay and Silent Bob show up in one of the later series filming a movie. It was awesome. It was really cool.
They included a couple of episodes that they were in on some disc I had. I can't even remember. It might be on the Clerks animated series, or it might be on An Evening with Kevin Smith. I don't know. I've got pretty much the DVD collection or whatever. And on one of them, they have the Degrassi episode that they were on, or a couple of them, as bonus features. And I've watched that, but I had no context of anything going on in the show.
And there's some shit that goes down in that episode too. Like there's some stuff that's going on where you're in the middle of some of Degrassi's finest story plots while that episode's going on. It's great.
And I think it's so funny too that Kevin Smith, I mean, he's from New Jersey, so it's not that far away, but at the same time, like, Canada is such a huge influence on his career in so many ways.
Yeah.
From starting with Degrassi, I believe.
He was obsessed with Degrassi. I love that. Like you say, Toby, like having that connection, or you're like, holy crap, like Jay and Silent Bob or Jason are in this for some reason, and I'm connected to this as well. Like, it's cool to have a shared fandom for Degrassi with Kevin Smith, you know?
Don't worry,
I'm sorry, Jamie, we lost you.
Right, yeah. I got so excited it couldn't handle my Degrassi love all at once.
You overwhelmed the system.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like there's more personal connections woven in just because of Kevin Smith, and like he loves Batman. Oh, I'm a big Batman fan. He does a whole podcast about Batman, and you know,
Ben Affleck should play. Again, he wasn't joking; he was serious. But like years before Ben Affleck ever played Batman, he was like, Ben Affleck could play Batman if he wanted to. He's that good of an actor. Yeah. Like he puts his faith in his friends, and he also has a real eye for talent. But Jamie, did you have anything that you wanted to add about Degrassi specifically? You seemed like you did, maybe.
Just like unabashed enthusiasm for that, for the whole show, for each of those appearances. They're just really great. It's sort of like, it's really surreal to be a Degrassi fan, and then all of a sudden Kevin Smith is not only like the director Kevin Smith, but he's now like a character that's getting in love triangles with like people's parents, like. And then the next time he comes and he's like teaching a young bisexual girl to be herself and like go for the girl. And then like the next time Jason Mewes is directing High School Musical, and it's just really fun.
To watch the show more, I guess.
Yeah. At least the episodes that they're in, you should definitely watch.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Oh man.
Drake was Aubrey Graham back in the day. Drake was on Degrassi. For the people that don't know this, Drake was known as Aubrey Graham, which is his real name on Degrassi. Yeah.
I'm just curious now, since you brought it up, was the Degrassi episode where Kevin Smith was like coaching a bisexual girl to like be herself before or after Chasing Amy?
After.
Way after.
Way. That's what I would have guessed, because like that seems like kind of a little bit of a disconnect from those storylines to some extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, but the crossover with everything on that is really cool, and it's really neat that I know all three of you from different places in my life, but we obviously all have this huge passion for this person that's clearly inspired us in so many ways. We are getting low on time. We've got about 4 minutes or so left. So real quick, why don't you guys make sure you get your plugs in of anywhere that you want to promote shows or channels or anything of that nature. But also, if you have any last thoughts that you want to share about Kevin and in general, Christina, I'll start with you.
Okay, I'll do my plugs first. Twitch, find me on Twitch, Christy Got Jokes, Kristie Got Jokes. I know I made that complicated for some reason. So yeah, find me on Twitch.
It's funnier that way.
Yes, it is funner that way. I play a ton of games on there. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter, same name, and Facebook. One thing I just want to say to all of you guys, Kevin Smith is filming Mallrats 2 next year, as far as everything is going so far, and from what I've heard, and I'm keeping up with all of that. It's going to be filmed in Louisiana, and I am going down there. So if any of you people that love Kevin Smith want to come and try to be an extra in Mallrats, I want to cross that off my list. I'm not going to get a chance to do that again. And Mallrats, I watched when I was 16, and I'm 36 now, and I've been a fan for 20 years, and I think it would just be great to be in Mallrats. So anyways, if you guys want to come with me, come with me. That's all I have.
Yeah, and on that,
I'm down.
for sure. That sounds like a great road trip.
Yes, we should film it and put our story out
That's
there.
what Kevin would do, and that's what Kevin want us to do.
Yes.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. Jamie, anything you want to plug? I know you got a show tonight. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, show tonight, August 19th. We're going to be on a show called Anything Live out of Austin. And we're going to be doing it's a new troupe called Shuffle Prov, where we improvise scenes based on weird found footage videos. So that's really fun.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So check that out. And the only other thing I want to say,
where is that, Ken? I'm sorry. Where can that be found at?
it is a Twitch stream for a show called Anything Live.
Anything Live. Cool.
Yeah. And I also just want to say that the Clerks animated series really, really holds up.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it does.
Toby Von Doom. We want to talk about all of the 1,000 podcasts you have and your whole thing.
I'm a busy man, but everything can be simplified to go to badsecretmedia.com. I do a satire conspiracy paranormal show called Secret Transmission. I do a retro video game show called Secret Levels with my co-host who was in the chat a minute ago. And I've got a bunch of other little projects and stuff. I mess with telemarketers on YouTube, a bunch of goofy shit. Just go to badsecretmedia.com and find everything. And if you want to follow me at Toby Von Doom on Twitter and Instagram, what's up? Follow me.
Any last thoughts on Kevin?
One thing I didn't get to touch on, and I'll do it real quick, as short as I can. My favorite Kevin Smith that inspired me was Clerks, obviously, just the process of making that movie. My favorite movie to watch with a friend that's passed away now was Mallrats. Have a soft spot for that movie. Chasing Amy, the moral of that movie changed my whole perspective on life, of forgiving people and not letting their past be what is I'm stumbling. Not worrying about someone's past, what they did in the past doesn't matter. So that movie changed my entire perspective of you can't hold old shit about people. What they did, is what they did. Either move on with them and make it right.
Move forward.
So yes. If you can't get over it, remove yourself. Yeah. So Kevin Smith, he's deep. He's a great entertainer. I love him. I wish he would just talk me to sleep every night. Just tell me stories.
Podcaster, you're doing good work. No, that's Guys, I'm so grateful for
As he
all of
pets
you
my
for being
head.
here today with me on Mr. Most Days. Mr. Most Days Off loves everything. I'm also stumbling, Kobe. It's fine. I do this every single Friday. We don't always talk about Kevin, but we just talk about something random that I love. And if you guys also love that thing, I would love for you all to come back anytime. So just hit me up and let me know, because I've had a great time chatting with all of you today. Kevin Smith is the reason I do podcasting. He's the reason podcasting led me to improv. Improv led me to stand-up. Stand-up led me to this. And Kevin Smith has been just like a huge inspiration in my life from day one. So I can't say enough nice things about him. Other than that, follow me online everywhere at Mr. Most Days Off, and check out my Simpsons review show every week at Best Darn Diddly. And tune in next Friday on the Fandom Friday lineup. I don't remember what I'm talking about off the top of my head, but it'll be something I'm passionate about, and I'll have somebody cool to talk about it with, and it'll be great. So come back. And for right now, stay tuned with the Fandom Friday lineup. I believe that we have David from Tales from the Fandom coming up next. Thank you guys so much.